Hello, everybody. Good morning, my friends. Cup of coffee, my vape, and a couple morning thoughts. And today, as usual, I arrive with no planned video. To give you an example of how I do my videos, I'll be in here working and getting a bunch of things done, and all of a sudden this thought will just cross my mind about something that, oh yeah, and I'll just open the camera and start it. And this is why most of my videos start out with me just kind of saying, oh hey, and rambling a little bit. It takes me a few minutes to really get into what I'm talking about. And this can be carried as a metaphor for many things in life. Anything that we want to get going on, we have to start, right? And I think most people out there, whenever I say all people, it's, of course, there's always somebody who's going to say, not me. No, I don't have problems. I don't have any issues. My life is perfect, you know. And that's good for you if you're one of those people. I really don't believe any of those people exist. I believe that this comes down to how we perceive our lives. And where one person could dwell on something very stupid as being a big issue in their life, such as they couldn't get the Lamborghini they wanted or something, that can be just as pressing as, you know, somebody wanting basic needs, depending on the mindset of the person. It's like, we're really to blame for the way that we think. And there's a certain point where we have to step back and say, you know, nobody's going to save us or pull us out of our own thinking. So, but what I've noticed is that people who, well, all people have issues that arise in life, you know, and we deal with those issues as best we can as individuals. I mean, there's no one-size-fits-all problem solver, and there's no one-size-fits-all problem. So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes we need to kick our minds into gear. Just like sitting down and start talking, and then what I'm thinking about comes to mind, you know, and I start flowing. When I step back and look at my housework, sometimes I'll think, okay, I got to clean up after the kids, do the dishes, and then I'll just back off from all of it because I don't want to start somewhere. But once I start on a corner, everything gets done. I call it my FOP, or firestorm of production. When I finally do start on something, I generally get very into it. And I think that thinking is just like doing. If it takes us a while to do something, to get into it, then it's going to take us a while to think a certain way to get into it. And thinking about our problems on a different level is what I'm trying to refer to here. That maybe the things that we think are horrible or not so horrible. Perhaps the negative views a lot of us have of the world are due to too much media, too much thinking about what may be or what is. It's always surprised me how much people can be affected by things that they're not even quite sure about. You know, you might catch a newscast of, you know, somebody who, I guess shooters would be a perfect example. You know, somebody shoots up a school or a nightclub, and then everyone spreads out and creates their own ideas of what happened. Some people say that the person was on drugs and it was all the drugs' fault. Other people say that, no, they were using firearms. It was a gun. The problem is guns. We need to remove guns. And then another whole group of people say it's a false flag. It never happened. It didn't exist. And all of these are kind of our perceptions of how we perceive things that we think happened. I guess what I'm saying, we're all at the mercy of the same information, the same news, the same reports, and you can see how people draw their conclusions off of things, and you know, what they're willing to accept as truth. But I guess to get to the point, ultimately, it's about thinking. It's about thinking of things on a level that helps us to get by, instead of thinking about things. Let's just say, no matter how much you resist something, no matter how much you get angry that the grass is green, it's not going to turn blue. And in your mind, you may be able to convince yourself that things are a certain way. But the question remains, is it healthy? And what is a healthy way of thinking? We can train our minds to wake up and see the sunshine instead of the rain. And this can be, I think this is an essential tool. Because as long as people feel fear and as if they're maybe outcasts, or that everyone's lying to them, which is a major issue, people believing that they're being deceived by everyone. And all it takes is a few rotten apples to ruin the bunch. We know that. So if you meet one person that's ripped you off in a particular line of business or something, you're going to be suspicious about people from then on in that. If you had a failed partnership with someone in a business, that's going to affect you in your future dealings. You're going to go, wait a minute, no. I mean, I was in a partnership and it caused me problems, and then, later on I maybe had the opportunity to join up and partner with somebody for other things, and I become very independent because I don't want to deal with the heartache of being let down by other people. And I think that the fear of being let down by other people is what builds up this wall that we have sometimes. That once we've seen a cruel nature of something or someone, that we just assume that that's something inherent within all people, and it's not. I don't have a bad bone in my body as far as wanting to hurt people. I'll do everything I can to avoid conflict and physical fighting. It doesn't mean that I back out of any argument. I'll argue all day long about a subject if I think it's important and true. But this is to get resolution. And that's the problem. It's not to boost your own ego. You have to learn how to distinguish between you wanting to be right so you can feel like you're right, and you wanting to express being right so you can get the other side of it, to try to fulfill and get a better rounded view of why people think the way they are. Because ultimately, if half the people think one way and half the people think another way, then there's no way for one side to say the other is wrong. There's obviously something there. For one person to sit and say they understand 7 billion is ludicrous. And we have to remember that. However we see the world, whatever we perceive in the world, is merely our perception. And each person has a completely different perception. So there's a lot of external blame, there's a lot of external focus on changing society so we can be happier, or that other people should stop doing this so everybody could live happier. But ultimately, none of this is going to stop because we wish it to. We have to learn how to incorporate that into our way of thinking, to say, this is the world we live in, this is the reality, deal with it. And that's where the line has to be drawn. You have to figure out when you just say, deal with it, this isn't human nature, and when we say, no, this is something that can be changed through effort. Because ultimately you can become very passive and not make any efforts to change. And this is how corporate entities and businesses, banks, step all over people. So they become passive and complacent. And on the other side of it, there are people screaming Illuminati at everything that happens, and those folks aren't any better off, making assumptions that everything's fake or everything's a hoax and that everyone's out to get them. And it does no good. It's never solved a thing. Everyone who's screamed conspiracy through history, not one of them has resolved anything. You look at the assassinations, the various leaders that have been killed off, or coups, and we know conspiracies exist. But that's not the point. The point is that what are you going to get out of believing that? What are you going to get out of thinking that everyone's lying to you? And so it's a matter of personal choice and how we decide to embrace or ignore certain aspects of our lives. So I'll just leave it at that, and hope you all have a wonderful day.